Team Freeview, we are here descending via drop pods with the all-new Space Marine Codex and supplements.
Yeah.
And then we have a new challenger. Some may say Erebus himself. What? No one's ever said that. But, if you have the
But they
chef
might
with
now.
us, they might
They
now.
might, I guess.
I think that you're a bit of a word bearer, Chef.
Oh, I get it now.
No. I like good rules.
Yeah.
So I'm in good luck.
Yeah, you are. Because, of course, the Ashen Huntsmen, who, let's face it, they have a bit of a murky history.
They have.
I think that some would say that they are, in fact, a renegade chapter.
Well, I always had them
Once again with the ill behaviour.
Yeah.
Yes. That was very good.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
So, for those of you which are new to the channel and don't know the chef is now with us full time, which is very exciting. So, welcome on board.
I am training him.
I'm going to
Yes.
clap myself.
In my image.
I'm clapping Bone for putting up with me for a week.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So
it's been
we've-
trying.
Yeah, it's been trying. So we're very excited to do this Foxcast review for you on the Space Marine Codex. Chef is one of the old school TT players, and his Ashen Huntsman, his Space Marine army. If you trawl back a bit, you'd see. I think the last battle report we did with them was actually maybe over a year ago.
Preview. I want
Preview,
to,
yeah. We actually did one recently.
We did one
Yes.
recently. I don't know whether that's gone up
No,
yet by the time
as
of
of
this.
filming this,
But Freeview, it was old Marine Codex, and then before that, it would have been the end of 7th.
Yeah,
Right,
I remember
yeah.
you and I had a battle with my Tau. I think that was in 7th versus your Ashen Huntsman.
Yeah, and we didn't
Yeah.
release that, did we? Because it was over turn 1.
No,
Yeah.
we did. We did.
Oh, did we?
You nearly
Oh, did
beat
we?
me. You
I
nearly
don't
beat me.
remember.
Yeah, so
Oh, really?
That's how long
There
ago
was
it was.
definitely
I
one
don't
they filmed
remember.
which wasn't released because it was literally over turn 1.
yeah, that wasn't this. That's not the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
This one was crazy. You had like 1,000,000 points, but I managed to table you, so I still won. So that's 7th, right?
Well, that would have
that's
been
right.
7-4, early 8th
Yeah.
before acceptable
That's right.
casualties. Yeah.
Which is, look, this is all a valid conversation, pre-review conversation, because it feels now, let's go over our initial impressions. You built the Ashen Huntsman for 7th.
Yeah, so they're all tactical marines.
Yeah.
They're all rhinos.
They're old
and
school Marines.
They're old
that's
school
what I call them
Marines.
now.
Grav.
Grav
Grav
cannons.
for days.
And now all of a sudden, this book comes out of nowhere with really. I don't want to say that all of the 7th edition builds are valid again, but you've definitely got some of that, I suppose, flavour back if you want to. If you want to use it, would you agree with that?
Yeah,
There's a hint of spice.
Yeah,
There's a little hint of spice.
Yeah.
So we're going to say that this is garnished with 7th edition.
Yeah.
Is that what we're going to say?
you know what? Yes, because there is a massive amount of. I hate to say it, there is codex creep here, guys.
Yes,
A
yes.
massive codex creep.
Yeah. It's a definite change. I think a shift
It's
of
huge,
gear. Isn't
really.
It?
Yeah. It's almost like these first sort of codexes were kind of going like, let's test the water, let's get everyone on the same-ish level.
Yes.
Looking at some armies more than others, obviously. And now they've gone, right, let's just absolutely jam-pack this full of cool stuff that you can do. It's
Yeah.
not quite on the same level with like a bazillion different detachments and hundreds of special rules, but now every Space Marine army has generally, in essence, a good 2 to 3 extra special rules.
Yeah.
They do, but also, I mean, this
than
is
that.
the initial. Yeah, you look at the Ultramarine supplement and the White Scars supplement.
It's great.
And look at how many stratagems are in there.
Oh,
Crazy.
Like they're actually quite meaty books.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at the Vigilance Ablaze that's come before that, and the Vigilance supplements, the Black Legion had a supplement, for example, but they've just got 6 stratagems in there, right?
So
Correct me if wrong.
I'm just gonna put this out there now. I think the Vigilance supplements were an experiment that they're not going to be doing moving forward. I don't think you're going to see. Shall I tell you why? Because
That's very controversial.
In this book, there's a whole bunch of stuff from Vigilance that you can take in normal Space Marines without needing to use specialist.
Yes.
You can still use those specialist attachments, but things like, everyone was running veteran intercessors.
That's right.
But you had to have a Vigilance detachment to do that.
You don't need to do
You
that.
don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah.
The rapid fire, all of those bolt gun stratagems, some of the relics are in there.
He's right,
So
He's actually right.
I think there's a bunch of stuff that they've kind of gone, here's the Vigilance stuff, and it's almost like a stopgap to go, right, well, here's Codex 2.0s. Not Chaos 2.0, because...
No.
that was more like a 1.1.
It was really.
It was.
But no, it was though, really. And that's the interesting thing, because I suppose if we compare this, I mean, we'll talk about the Space Marines a little bit more in depth in a moment. It's just an initial impression, but I feel that the Chaos Space Marine Codex, the 2.0 one, as you say, it's kind of like a 1.1. It's
more like a 1.1 update.
You know, it had a few new units, and it was almost like, well, here's a book with the new photography for all of the new miniatures.
Yeah.
Because they did release a whole bunch of new miniatures,
which are very cool.
But they are, and
but the book is largely a reprint.
It's a reprint, and to the point where some of the stratagems were reprinted from the original thing, without the FAQ update.
Right. Yeah. It's like literally
like forward operatives, the Tide of Traitors. It was all identical, so you still had to use the FAQ for the old one.
Yeah.
Because they'd literally just gone, just take those pages, reprint them, send them off. And, not to say that it was a bit of a cop-out, but I feel really, really bad for any Chaos player that bought that book, and then this book comes out, 2-3 months later?
Well, yeah. I mean, and it is an interesting one, because this book feels like, and I sort of said it when we played the game, like, this feels like a different beast. It's like a new game, It's like 9th edition sort of thing. It's not,
it is,
obviously.
But it feel, there's something in the water.
It's a different format.
We think, unless, every other codex is just similar to what they did with Chaos. But I don't feel like that's the case, though.
Maybe it will be. Maybe everything just is a 2.0. But I think, I think for me, it's a funny one, because I'm quite excited about it, because if they could make all of the codexes now, all of the rehashes like this, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And like right now, you've got your supplements, which with really fleshed out rules. They're not like previously supplements have felt a bit thin. It's like a little marinade on top of a core book.
Yeah.
But your White Scars and the Ultramarines, and obviously assuming they do others, which Games Workshop have all but said that they will.
Yeah.
That they feel unique. I like them.
Yeah. But this is the source. This is the high-end source to your fillet steak. Whereas the supplements before were kind of just like ketchup on the side. Why would you have ketchup with a fillet?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
I don't know.
You do that.
You do that, don't you?
I like ketchup.
Yeah. Yeah, but on a fillet steak.
He likes ketchup.
I like ketchup.
So look, that was our initial impression.
Yeah.
Let's go over the actual core rules, the Angels of Death and stuff like that. So let's talk about that in a little bit more detail. That's coming up next. Right, guys. So why don't we go over the initial rules changes? I've been updated on a couple of things since filming this book. For example, with the Defenders of Mankind, the new Angels of Death rules. They've now consolidated the Bolter Discipline rule into the actual Space Marine Codex. It was a beta rule, and then of course it became solidified, and now it's actually in the book to go with it. But we've also got the Shock Assault rules in addition to Combat Doctrines, and of course they've still got And They Shall Know No Fear. Now, I at first was like, right, well, the Chaos Space Marines, the basic Chaos Space Marine, because of course they've had a point drop in here, the basic Space Marine, whereas the Chaos Space Marine has not.
No.
Okay.
For reasons.
Now that is obviously an issue for Chaos Space Marines. It is an issue.
However
you want to paint it, it's an issue. That will need to be adjusted, guys, in my humble opinion. However, it has been said, apparently, on Warhammer Community, I haven't read the post, but that Chaos Space Marines are going to be getting the Shock Assault rule. Is that correct?
Yes, so they've said that every variant of Chaos Space Marine, including Death Guard, including Thousand Suns, are going to be getting Shock Assault. This also applies for your specialist chapters in Space Marines, so your Blood Angels, your Dark Angels, your Space Wolves.
Cool.
But they're not getting Combat Doctrines, though.
No, so Combat Doctrines... I really like the idea of Combat Doctrines because it specifies that your entire army has to have the Angels of Death rule.
Yes.
Which, if I'm looking at it here, will only benefit if you have a battle-forged army. Units only benefit from this bonus. This is for Combat Doctrines. If every unit from your army has this ability, excluding servitor and unaligned units.
Yeah. So that's really cool.
That
so you have to be a pure Astartes army.
Pure Astartes, because it represents their combat doctrine, the fact that they are a unified, cohesive force.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, at least according to what Warhammer community have said, there's no PDF been dropped yet, so we don't know for 100% certainty, because, the community team are not the rules writers. They do occasionally get things wrong, and they're usually quick to sort of, rectify those mistakes. But from what they've said so far, Space Wolves, Dark Angels and Blood Angels are not getting these combat doctrines, which means that either they're getting something else, or
not.
or not. Or their difference in terms of combat doctrine is the fact that they have the special units that the Marines don't have.
Yeah. Although the fact that Shock Assault does work for Blood Angels and Space Wolves specifically is a really, really good boon for them.
It's really good.
But they don't get their -1 Assault Doctrine.
No, they don't. They don't get -1 chainswords. But
they wouldn't get it until turn 3 anyway.
We don't know.
You wouldn't get it until turn 3 anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Wouldn't that be cool though if the Blood Angels, because everyone knows they're supposed to be combat heavy, they just swapped around the doctrines?
Well, that is something I suggested.
Yeah, so then all of theirs would become like melee doctrines.
Yeah, so they start with the assault doctrine in place.
Yeah, it's rather than combat doctrines. It's they call it like just Sons of Sanguinius. And they start with assault, and then they go to attack. Because even in the Horus Heresy, yes, they did the lightning fast sort of assaults, and they were well known for their sort of like drop jumping in and jump packs and stuff. But they were more of like a fast-paced response army.
Yeah.
They weren't all like melee rip and tear, because that's come later since the Black Rage. But the Red First sort of core was still there, but they kind of their actual way of specialized war was more close range firefighting. So it'd be interesting to see them start on tactical and then go to assault turn 2.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, something like that to represent the more modern.
Yeah, it would look. I mean, that's a sort of cool flavour that they could add.
And that's easy enough to do. Yeah. That's what they. And that's something.
But
we don't know what's
happening. Maybe they'll do a Flesh Terror supplement.
Well, I doubt it.
Let's go with maybe.
We don't know.
Look at the look on his face.
Don't be very excited.
Might
make you want to play a Space Marine army. Seth is a beast.
Yes,
look, I think we don't know. This is all speculation here. I would love to see the Blood Angels and the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves. And I know I'm going to get absolutely ripped apart by you fans out there. You don't need a 200-page book, guys. You can have an 80-page book like everyone else.
Oh no, I completely agree.
There's no need for you to have a reprinted book, and then that's beneficial for you guys, because then you're not having to pay twice over for something that everyone else already has.
If my Space Wolves got a book like this, I would be very satisfied.
Yeah.
Very, very satisfied.
Because you've got all of that stuff, plus your own... there's unique units in these books. It's not like they would be taken away from you.
No, you still keep all of them,
Then have all of your rules for, your unique rules, your special, doctrine rule that, the Marines and the White Scars have, more relics, more traits. You've got your psychic powers in there. You'd have your stratagems in there. And then you would also have rules for people that want to do Flesh Terrors or, the Dark Angel Successors. They've got rules for using your Successors.
I've got one question though about that, Chef.
Oh yes.
No, it's an interesting one, because I suppose if they only had their own book, the only issue, if you want to call it an issue, would be that they don't, I'm assuming, have access to the stratagems in the core book, or do they?
No, so White Scars can use stratagems from the Space Marine book.
Is my point.
Yeah.
So would Blood Angels?
Yes, of course.
So you would. So basically, this would be your core tome of power.
How many stratagems were repeated in the Blood Angels, Dark Angels, and Space Wolf book that were already in the main book?
So many, yeah. So so they wouldn't lose. So I think that's how I would do it.
I just don't see the. I get they have a very very vast following and a vast background.
That makes sense.
You know what, guys? I just think it would be better for.
Well, it is silly to reprint
it's
Devastator Squad, although with Space Wolves you get long fangs because you're awesome.
But again, they would be
you know what I mean.
unit.
Blood Angels have a normal Devastator. There's no quirks that Blood Angels have in their Devastator Squad. No. We don't need to reprint.
Blood Angels, they've got their special characters, of which they've got about 4, 5, 6. They've got the Bald Predator. They've got the Sanguinary Guard. They've got Death Company.
Yeah.
I think that's it. They can take heavy flamers on their tactical squads. Well, you know what, guys? You can just add a little addendum to say, add the following weapon to heavy weapons taken by a Blood Angels
Space
unit.
Wolves are actually, Dark Angels are a lot meatier, really. The Space Wolves don't have a tactical squad. They've got Blood Claws. They've got great hunters.
No, I suppose that's a fair point.
So they are actually quite meaty, but all of their tanks, you know, a lot of their support units are exactly the same. Well, yeah, but I mean, it's still not. I mean, all right, so their supplement will be a bit thicker.
But then a Grey Hunter, but nowadays a Grey Hunter is the same as a tactical squad. They don't do anything different.
Yeah, I mean that is actually true, isn't it? The Blood Claw is different though.
The Blood Claw can just be a unique unit.
It could be a unique unit.
The Ultramarines book has 12 unique units in it.
Yeah, well, and that would pretty much cover all of the Space Wolves as well, I think.
Yeah, and it's still like an 80-odd page supplement.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. The supplements feel meaty now, so I think it would work. Yeah. I'm very, very interested to see how GW go down.
We know that there's 6 supplements in this current run, of which we've seen 2 of them.
All of the redacted things.
We can presume that it's going to be Raven Guard, Imperial Fists, and their successors, Iron Hands and Salamanders coming next. I don't think they're going to give Black Templars an individual supplement, guys.
Do you not?
No.
Do you not?
They're a successor to Imperial Fists. Why would they not be in the Imperial Fist bit? They'll have a separate thing for Crusader squads in there. They'll have a separate... Because they don't need to give them Librarious powers.
No, they don't.
Like, you know, they can just go, like, you know, here is, you know, the Black Templars, you know, they can get 2 extra relics on top of the normal Imperial Fist ones. And we'll explain how the Successor stuff works later. Because I was really concerned about it, and actually Games Workshop just went, just have all the toys, mate, it's fine. So, okay, cool,
Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. But, back on topic.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. We've sort of spoken about our Angels of Death, you know, rules. Like, you guys will pretty much all know the rules now. In fact, as of releasing this video,
you should
have
actually
available to purchase in your store. So that's all good. I do like the combat doctrines. I'll summarise this. I do like the combat doctrines a lot. I suppose my only feeling is that with the Chaos Space Marine Codex coming so close before it, I think that there's such a wide gap now, actually, you know, in all honesty, guys, between your basic Space Marines, and the thing is, the Primaris in this book are even better than
Primaris were already better.
Yeah, I think the Primaris is already, to be honest with you, the go-to. You know, the normal Marines now are more attractive, guys. Definitely,
they have a niche,
and obviously we're looking at
this is the niche.
You've got some real interesting plays that you can make with normal Marines now, which I think is really exciting, because it does give you an excuse to, you know, if you've only got an original Marine army, actually I think you can play that respectably now. Well, I do think you would want to mix Primaris at least to make it super competitive, but I could be wrong about that. You know, this is my initial impression, right? I do like the combat doctrines, but I really feel that Chaos Space Marines, and this isn't a Chaos Space Marine review, of course, but, you know, if you talk about the arch enemy, who should be on an equal par, you know, those...
Not slightly scarier.
Like those marks, those god marks now need to really do something. They need to actually have a rule, not a token thing for it, so you can employ a stratagem.
You know what I mean?
That
can be Chaos's version of combat doctrines.
You got it.
You make them 12 points, so they're the same as a tactical Marine. You know, I personally think that Chaos Space Marines should be 2 wounds. They should be Primaris level of scary.
So do I.
Because they've been in the warp for 10,000 years. Exactly. Well, like, not the renegade ones. You could have the 2 units. You can have it as, like, you could have them as veteran Chaos Space Marines, who are your Primaris Intercessor, the ones that have been bulked up by warp juice, and they've been fighting for 10,000 years, and they have the veteran of the Long War keyword.
Right.
And then that's the ones that you can use veterans of the Long War on, for example. And then you get renegade Chaos Space Marines, who are kind of like the newer ones, and they're just the basic Marines.
Problem is they'll need a new like a Chaos Space Marine Plus model for that, wouldn't they?
Of course, which is weird, because the new models are actually only slightly smaller than the Primaris.
The new models are awesome. They're so good. They're so good. So I'm a big advocate of wanting to be able to use them.
I find it. I think it's interesting, because it's almost like they went to do that 2 wound thing almost with the Death Guard. So it's almost like they did it with one chapter that worked, and that actually, toughness 5 and disgustingly resilient, and I'm very good at rolling disgustingly resilient.
You are.
I don't know.
You are a Death Guard player. You just haven't embraced it yet.
Maybe,
but you really are.
Maybe,
they really, really
maybe I need to go dance in the garden. I don't know. But
Grotny's there.
Yeah. We're pals, Grotny and I. Grotny and I. That was
with Nell and I.
With Nell and I. Yeah. No, that's not what I meant. But so it's almost like they've got the template there for something like that, and I'm not saying you give everyone disgustingly resilient, but it exists, and it's almost like they just need to tweak something over, whether it be 2 wounds, or increased, like maybe they're all toughness 5 or something like that.
And you know what?
Just something a bit.
I don't know. I mean, it used to be that Mark and Nurgle gave you +1 toughness.
It gave you +1 toughness. Okay. But you know what? Tough 2 wounds actually is not all that beneficial, because there's a huge amount of 2 damage weapons out there. However, you know what it would do? It would make them actually relatively immune to the small arms anti-infantry fire. Like las guns and bolters, actually bouncing off them like they should do in the background.
Like they should.
Yes,
that's the problem. They just die too easily.
Is still going to get mown down by a Knight's Gatling cannon. It doesn't matter what
Sure, but at that point, it is a Knight's Gatling cannon.
Exactly.
I can wear
not a las gun just going headshot. They should be bouncing off.
Yeah.
But what I would like to see chaos-wise is they don't get the combat doctrines. They're getting shock assault. They've already got Bolter Discipline. I would like to see them get a variant of Then They Shall Know No Fear, or rather, because they never had They Shall Know No Fear in the rules. But they should always.
They were fearless.
If you take them undivided.
That's right.
Yeah.
Back in the
so
day,
that should be like your 5 combat doctrines, and they don't change. And it's like Mark of Khorne gives you +1 strength, Mark of Nurgle gives you +1 toughness, Mark of Slanesh gives you like +2 to movement and or +1 to advance and charging, and +1 to move, advance and charging.
I agree, something like
Zinch
that.
Gives you
always strike first in the first round of combat.
Yeah, well, that's an Emperor's Children thing. I think just the extra speed would be nice.
I'm a big Emperor's Children fan.
I know you are. So they can keep that.
I had a whole army and I sold them.
We know.
And again, the Marines, when we get onto the chapter tactics.
Well.
Anyway.
May I suggest, because this is suddenly becoming a
Chaos Space Marine review.
But it's good to do a comparison just to show the difference of what they've got, and this is just the beginnings of what they've got, let alone everything else.
This is the thing. I think you've got 2 ways that you could feel about this. Like, I totally get that Chaos Space Marines, they've just had their revamp. And they might see the new Space Marine shiny toys and be like, oh, man, which I totally get. But I would also look at it from the other point of view. And this is actually the point of view I look at it from. I would actually look at this and be very excited about it.
Yeah.
Because if they do go back over, and the thing is, Games Workshop have proved that in Chapter approved specifically as well, that they do redress a lot of things. And they might not get to address everything as fast as we would like, honestly, but they do redress it. And we're in a system now with 8th edition. We're obviously getting quite deep into 8th edition now. It's been around for a couple of years. But Games Workshop are learning and adapting, and the books, in my opinion, are generally getting better.
Yeah.
And the rules changes are getting more focused, which is good. So, if they can start belting out books like this consistently, when you do get round to Chaos, because they could just go, well, all right, here's a Chaos supplement first. Here's whatever they're going to do.
Yeah.
They've got some opportunities to sort of bring them up in line, especially with Chapter approved. So look, let's just hope and give the feedback, right?
Yeah.
Let's give the feedback. Look, I think this book there's nothing wrong with this book.
This book is amazing.
It's more about, now we just need to fix some of the other books. Do you know what I mean?
It's about whether this book is going to set a precedent or be an exception.
An exception, exactly.
And I hope it's a precedent.
Exactly.
It needs to be the precedent, because otherwise it's just, typical sort of like Space Marine fanboyism from Games Workshop, which, I don't believe in, because Eldar exist.
Well, exactly. There have been plenty of books which have been better than Space Marines for a long time.
And there's plenty of books that are still, I would say, better than this book in terms of their tabletop effectiveness. But in terms of what this brings to the game, I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
No, same. And also, for the first time for me in a long time, perhaps maybe ever, this Space Marine book, they feel like Space Marines.
Yeah. They feel scary.
Like, now I'm like, oh, okay. oh, okay. If someone puts a Space Marine army down now, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I used to
That's
be
cool.
like,
Exactly.
But
now I'm like, no, these are the angels of death.
Yeah.
I respect you. But please release my flesh terror supplement immediately. So anyway, I don't know if they're going to do one. They probably aren't. But, anyway, a person can hope. So, look, that's the basic special rule overview. I mean, we could talk about the chapter tactics, but I think honestly,
for a week now.
at this point, there really isn't anything to discuss. Why don't we just discuss briefly the Successor chapter tactics before we then get into the new units?
I really like this.
I really like it too.
Yeah.
What is it that you like about it specifically?
The ability to really give to make your own chapter and to give them the flavour that how you want to see them played, I think is really cool.
Yeah.
It's just going to we talk about adding flavour to the game. You're just going to be playing so many different types of armies, and you can experiment with different types depending on how you're feeling on the day. I'm all for it. I think it's really cool.
I think both from a narrative perspective, a fluff perspective, and a competitive perspective, if you wanted to go down that path, you've got so much flexibility now, because we know you go into any store, you often see all of the normal chapters, but you see so many people investing so much time and love into creating their own, and having something like this, a template system, is really, really cool. When I mentioned the competitive aspect, actually most of the core chapters, to be honest, are better. But what this does give you, if you are a suit player and you want to talk about competitive 40k, it does give you the ability to plug in a Space Marine detachment with a bespoke couple of chapter tactics to make something particularly, I suppose, surgical.
Which is what they do in the
gap. For whatever gap that you might want to fill.
Sure.
But look, personally, we don't need to really go over all of them. The only thing which I've sort of mentioned in the first game is the Inheritors of the Primarch. I particularly liked that actually it said if you are a known Successor chapter and you choose this one, you have to. So if you're like Nova Marines, which are a successor of Ultramarines, if I remember correctly, you have to use the Ultramarine tactic. I think that's nice. Just a little nod to the fluff there, because I like seeing the armies played as what they're supposed to be.
There is some cool stuff in the Successor chapter tactics which aren't available to the normal chapters.
What are the ones that stick out to you specifically?
In terms of what you can, again, this is sort of my sort of feelings with White Scars and the chapters as a whole, is that you kind of have to build around their tactic to make the most of it.
Definitely.
So like the White Scars one, for example, like fallback and advance and charge is really nice, but you kind of need to have an assault army. Shock assault's really good, but it does not a combat army make. It means it's basically always going to be active, which is nice. But like the second part with the bikers is just worthless, really.
In White Scars specifically?
The White Scars. So I'm just saying, like the White Scars specifically, it's kind of like, well, so you can move and fire with heavy weapons on a bike. Okay, so a heavy bolter or multi-bolter on an attack bike. That's it. Exactly, doesn't apply to land speeders. No. For reasons, and you can advance and shoot without penalties with your assault weapons if you're on a bike. So that's your melter guns. That's it. Your flames already ignored.
Because the grav are rapid fire.
So that bit is kind of like superfluous. So I don't even look at that.
No,
and I think some people
you can't really build around. Well, you could, but you say, it would only be for those niche cases. So specifically melter guns. There's no other.
There's no other.
No, because even the plasma's rapid fire.
So there's no. So that to me is almost like a superfluous chapter tactic. Whereas the fallback and advance and charge is really good. Now with the Successor chapters, you can't get fallback and advance and charge. You can get fallback and charge. So you can kind of get half of your chapter tactics.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you can layer in another one.
Bloodline.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah. So the one that I've been really looking at is tactical withdrawal, which is fallback and charge. So that it kind of reflects that sort of like move in, move out type
hit and run.
And also our rapid assault. So the tactic does not units with this tactic do not suffer the penalty for advancing and firing assault weapons, and that applies across your entire army, not just bikes. So now all of a sudden you think of 30 intercessors with those free shot auto bolt rifles. Oh, hello.
It feels very White Scars to me as well.
Oh, hello.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which to me, isn't White Scars, because I started them with the White Scars to do, it was, that's, the hit and run type tactics, which is fall back, shoot, come back in again. They can do that because there's stratagems to do that. We'll get onto that later. There's a lot of really cool stuff. So those are the two that stand out to me. some misinformation that on the internet that I'm going to address. I don't know how this was, going around because it was literally, in black and white on the community page with Inheritors of the Primarch. It specifically states that if you take this, you cannot take a second Successor chapter tactic. And people are like, why would I not just take Ultramarines and the White Scars to fall back and charge? Fall back, shoot and charge every time.
You can't do that.
It specifically says, some people were like, you can take Inheritors. So
you can't.
You'll take Iron. So why wouldn't I not take Iron Hands and then take Stealthy as well? So I've gotten my entire army in cover with a 6 up.
Well, obviously you would do that if you could, but you can't.
It says you can't.
You're not allowed.
But
not allowed.
There's loads of really cool stuff that you can combo with with the Successor chapter tactics.
Well,
I think it's really cool.
With that, I think it would be, we should in this little segment as well, we should talk about specifically just the Ultramarine, what you get if you're a pure Ultramarine army, and what you get if you're a pure White Scars army. So, Mr. Bone.
Yes.
For the Ultramarines, who we are both fans of.
Oh, big fans. Courage and honour.
If every single model in your army, so not just attachments, your army, you get an addition. I really like this because this is now for the first time really in 8th edition, there's been a true reward for going monofaction.
This is a reward.
This is a real reward now.
What we've
This is basically what we've been asking for. I don't care if there's soup armies. That's fine. But there should be an incentive to not do that. Otherwise, you'll only get soup armies.
This is not, and I prefer this way. Like I must admit, I'm the sort of person that would be like, soup armies, you get no command points.
Yeah, really vicious.
You get nothing. You get nothing. You get those units. Good day, sir. Whereas now, this is the more psychologically positive way of doing it, which is rewarding. Rewarding over punishment is better.
Yeah. I'm all for that.
Rewarding a pure army is better than punishing a soup army. If you want to look at it in terms of overall game balance and game design and health for the game. And these are some good rewards.
Right, so let's talk about these rewards. So if you get the Signs of Guilliman if you're Ultramarines. Mr. Bone, tell us what it does.
Whilst this tactical doctrine is active, models with this ability that moved in your movement phase but did not advance or fall back can make attacks with ranged weapons in the following shooting phase as if the unit had remained stationary this turn.
Amazing.
Strong.
Yeah.
It's very
really strong.
Yeah.
Really, really strong.
Especially with Bolter Discipline.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So your Bolter Discipline is going off at all range. Your aggressors are double tapping all the time. Your Devastators have free movement around the battlefield without penalties. Your vehicles, because your doctrines apply to all of your vehicles.
Yep.
Which
so
is
now
incredible.
All of those. So
this is a thing which Chaos don't have.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's really, really cool and fluffy with the Ultramarines because it represents they are the adherents of the Codex. They use that devastating barrage turn 1, and then they kind of go right. Okay, now we're shooting on the move. That means we can't get the focused target, the extra AP on the heavy weapons. But you know what it does mean? It means that we're like we've locked on sort of thing. And that's really cool. I think it's really cool.
How many?
It's very powerful.
Single drop pods with a single Ultramarine Devastator squad in. Who with players which are competent and know how 4 times 4 is because I rolled 12 shots. I can actually tell you what happened there. I did have 16 shots, and then I had 4 dice in a hand here, and I counted out the 12. I put the 4 down, and I picked the 12 up.
It was the 4 for the Signum, wasn't it?
Yeah,
because that you forgot about as well.
Yeah. That's all right.
That's all it is.
It happened.
They still did the business.
They still did the business.
And this is in the battle report, guys, that you would have seen last week. But and here's the thing, I think I missed the -1, the Signs of Guilliman as well.
You didn't need to use it.
No. So this is the thing. I would have been hitting on 3s with all of those.
Well, no, because you arrived turn 1.
Oh, because I arrived turn 1. That's a good point.
So it's when the tactical doctrine. So this is only from turn 2 onwards. But there is a way, I believe, to make them have the tactical doctrine active.
Yes.
There's various Warlord Traits or
Stratagems. And there is. I think there is a
White Scars don't get that for Assault Doctrine, guys. So calm down on your Captain Smash Hammers on bikes. You're not doing that until turn 3.
Yeah, and also he is still quite pricey anyway. I mean, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a bit. Obviously, he's a beast, but and it's cool to make a White Scars character like that.
Yeah, but like Signs of Guilliman is
Master of Strategy.
Okay. So excuse me. Once per battle, if this Warlord is on the battlefield, you can select one friendly Ultramarines unit within 6 of the Warlord until the end of that battle round. When a model in that unit makes an attack, the tactical doctrine is considered to be active.
Once per battle or once per battle round?
Once per battle round.
So you can do that every turn.
Now, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Listen, so what we're going to see is a Devastator squad, Ultramarine Devastator squad with all grav, because you're going to use gravitic amplification, but only 1 CP every turn for as long as the Marines are alive.
It's the extermination protocols for destroyers.
Yeah, right, exactly. Now, you could load them up to have like 9 Marines in there just for ablative wounds if you wanted to. I'm just saying, if you wanted to, but you'll leave that space for that one captain who's then giving them reroll 1s to hit.
Yeah,
I think there's
and
a
he's
stratagem.
got the Master of Strategy.
I think there's a stratagem that allows them to act as if it's the tactical doctrine as well.
Yeah.
So you don't even need a character to babysit.
But you need him within 6 inches to do that.
No. If there's a stratagem...
Oh, to switch it?
You could have... So now you could have 2 drop pods.
Well, hang on a minute.
Well, that would be a bit... Yeah, you can...
I'd have to have a look. I don't want to sit here for the next...
No. But in any case, that is a really valid tactic,
there's
and
some
it's brutal.
really cool stuff you
There
can
is.
do.
So look, that's Ultramarines. Just a little brief overview. We know that they've got some. I think that they're ultra competitive now.
Oh, hit it!
So I will.
Yes.
So my instincts with the Ultramarines are that they're that rule signs of the Guilliman. Signs of the Guilliman is incredibly strong.
Yes, it is very
coupled
strong.
with the tactical doctrines. However, I would say that their psychic powers, their relics are not that great.
No.
Their stratagems are okay.
Well, actually, but their Warlord Trait, Paragon of War, represents Artemis better than anything.
Which means I guess you have to have it.
I have to run it.
I think that overall, that rule makes up for the rest of the book being not mediocre, because they're not mediocre.
No.
I think it makes up for it not being as strong as perhaps, say, the White Scars, which I think is the other way around.
Right, but that, you know what, you can wear that, right? Because it's just different types.
Exactly.
I do have one pertinent question though. Can a Primaris captain have a chainsword yet?
I don't know. You've got the main book. I don't believe so.
This is actually a massive question,
because
guys.
then he can take Teeth of Terror, which would actually be huge because Teeth of Terror got better. It's flat 3.
Yes, it did.
It's flat 3 attacks now, not D3.
Listen, everyone calm down.
Yes.
This could be a big old
problem. It was already
here.
very good.
Yeah,
this could be a big old problem.
I don't think they can.
There were lots of little cheeky secret buffs as well. For example, Null Zone now goes off on a 7, not an 8.
Yes.
And it affects the unit, not the model.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Might of Heroes does affect a model, and I put it on a unit.
It didn't matter.
It didn't actually matter because I put that stratagem on where they could only be wounded on 4s, 5s, and 6s
4s,
anyway.
5s, 6s anyway, yeah.
So the toughness 5 didn't really matter. Right, okay, so...
I don't believe they can. So that's a normal captain there.
Normal captain.
That's a
one.
That's a normal captain.
That's a normal captain.
It's not a Primaris
captain.
No.
Yes, no. Yes, no.
One
power sword.
No.
Oh, 1 power... Why can't he have a Teeth of Terror, Games Workshop?
It's very upsetting.
Because they can't have all of the stuff.
Yeah.
But how does Artemis become Primaris without it?
Well, maybe.
You know what he could do? You could give him the burning sword or the burning blade, and just call it like it was forged in Artemis's honor, decreed by Guilliman himself as a replica of the Emperor's sword. You know,
that's quite nice.
Like as a gift for him for surviving the Rubicon.
Yeah, he's got the soldier's blade.
No, the burning blade in the main book. Because that got so much better. +3 strength, -5, 2 damage. How does that tickle your fancy?
It does tickle my fancy quite well.
Yes.
It's just not a chainsaw.
It's just not a chainsaw.
It doesn't give you the additional attacks.
I know.
Anyway, let's talk White Scars.
Right, so I'm just going to address how Successor chapters work with the supplements. So this works for White Scars, for Ultramarines. I presume it's going to be the same for the rest when they come out. So basically, if you are a Successor chapter, you need to decide what your first founding chapter is, unless you are a known one. If you are a known one, you use that Successor.
Yep.
So if you are, for example, so they use the example in here of Stormlords, they are a known successor of White Scars.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you have to use the White Scars chapter traits, but you have to use their successor rules if you're using successor rules at all.
Sure.
You cannot go, they're Stormlords, but I'm going to use Raven Guard because they're better. No. Which I kind of like and I kind of don't, because I like it because it's, this is the boat that you've chosen. This is what you should be doing. I kind of don't like it because it is Games Workshop going, and I have been guilty of this myself. There's plenty of people where I'm like, why are you using Gulliman? He's not painted blue. Come on now.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make sense to me.
You know who you are.
You know exactly who you are. But it kind of takes away from, it's when I painted the Ashen Huntsman, I didn't actually know that was the old school colours of Space Wolves.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, so are they a Space Wolves successor? I was like, no, why would they be?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, because it's the Heresy colours. Ugh.
Excuse me.
I felt a little bit sick, actually.
No.
So it kind of...
Excuse you.
Part of it feels like it's kind of taking away player urgency, which I'm not a massive fan of, but, in a friendly game, it doesn't really matter. You can kind of do what you want.
Yeah. So there's one example of this where Darren Latham, who watches this, is one of the Games Workshop designers.
Oh, yeah.
He's like... When I say next level painter, it's silly level. So Darren, if you're watching this,
it disgusting?
You paint stupidly well. But he's got, I think he's made his, I think it's his own chapter. It's Iron Skulls or Silver Skulls.
Silver Skulls they're a known chapter.
But I think he's called them the Iron Skulls. Anyway, he's got Gilliman done up in the scheme.
Yeah.
But it looks so good.
And you know what?
It looks so
good.
good.
Kind of forgive it, and I've not
I don't
really...
forgive you, Darren.
I don't really see a problem with
Follow him on Instagram. He's really, really good tutorials as well. Yeah.
I don't see a problem with it. I just think it's when it's blatantly done for the purposes of the rules.
Yeah.
That's what kind of annoys me.
Sure.
If it's done because it's a really cool model and I've got a really good idea for a paint scheme, you crack on. Yeah. But then don't expect funny looks if you're using it in a game. The Successor chapter. So if you are using the Inheritor of the Primarch Successor chapter, so this is the one that gives you basically the White Scars traits or the Ultramarine traits, you have to use the Successor. If you make up your own Successor, you can choose one.
Yeah.
So I could, in theory, choose what I wanted with the Ashen Huntsman.
Right.
The only reason why I use White Scars instead of why they've traditionally been seen as White Scars is because that fit their play style that I felt, and I'll probably continue to do so.
And you liked all of the bikes.
Yeah, exactly. But in terms of Warlord traits, in terms of stratagems, in terms of psychic powers, in terms of your tactical objectives, you use these Successor traits.
Sure.
Like these are completely available to you. There is no restriction on those apart from relics. You can only use... There's two different types of relics, well, there's three types. You've got the main Codex ones, you've got the special issue Wargate, and that's really nice because that's where like your adamantium mantle and your artificer armor is coming back, and it's like proper old school like upgrades again. They count as relics of the chapter. Or you've got like the relics of Dragaris in here, or the relics of Ultramar in there. And if you are a successor and you want to use those relics, you have to pay a command point to do so, because it's basically the chapter master is gifting you a successor, this glorious relic.
That's good news if you're a Flesh Terror player, and they do decide to do that for Blood Angels.
Because it means you'll actually be able to use relics.
And it means I'll actually be able to do Flesh Terrors.
Yeah, which would be good. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Is that exciting for you?
I won't get access to Mephiston, though.
Yeah, no, but do you need
He's
to?
a badass.
He is.
I really want to use Mephiston.
Well, I mean, he's a Blood Angel. You should best do a Blood Angel army.
Yeah.
You know.
Sanger did them.
Well, so?
Steal.
I had a Tau army first, Bone. Everyone forgets that.
It's true, actually. He does.
I get, the problem is, though, I just did it so much better, Chef.
Back to Space Marines. So if you're running a Successor, don't worry, these are not barred to you. If anything, if you're running a Successor with an unknown chapter, you're going to have to spend a lot more money.
Yeah.
Or you just buy the one that you think is best, have a look, depending on how friendly your store is.
But what is the actual rule?
Let's go on to the rule. That was just a little preamble there. So the actual rule is Devastating Charge. So when the Assault Doctrine is active, when making an attack with a melee weapon by a model with this ability in a unit that has either charged or performed a heroic intervention this turn, you add one to the damage characteristic of that weapon for that attack. This means your basic guys, because everyone comes with a close combat weapon, on turn 3 onwards, if they charge or heroically intervene, will have at the basic tactical marine level, a 2 or 3, because shock assault, 2 strength 4 -1, 2 damage attacks. And that's a basic tactical marine. So now when you start adding that onto your characters, your Primaris, it can get real scary real quick. However, and this is why I say this rule, I think, is offset by the better stratagems and powers in this book. There is no way to get this active until turn 3.
Yeah.
So
Currently. I'd say currently probably not.
Probably not. Not for White Scars. Yeah, no. There's nothing in the normal book. There's nothing in here. There's no traits. There's no stratagems to enable it to come early. Yeah. Some people are saying that the main book in here allows you to move the clock backwards. It doesn't. It goes. You can go from assault to tactical. You can go from tactical to dev. That's it. There's no way to go from dev to assault.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to, and you know what? I think it fits the theme of them really nicely because it's that they do the harrying attacks, they pick off the weak bits, and then they go in for the killing blow, which is really cool. Yeah. I think it is really cool. But this is not an alpha strike ability. No. Everyone's going, oh my god, it's going to be amazing when you can, but you can't do it. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. When you combo it with some of the Warlord traits, some of the power, their psychic discipline is so good. It is. There is no power in here that I would not want to take. Yeah. Like, for real. I think there's one power that is slightly weaker than the others, and even then, that slightly weaker is that unit can't advance and rolls 1d6 to charge. That's the weakest power.
Man, that's good.
And that's so huge.
That's good.
I do have one question. You can't mix the disciplines.
You have to take one or the other.
You stick to one or the other. Because obviously the main Space Marine powers are also, things like Null Zone are still incredible.
Yeah.
So there
especially now on a 7.
Yeah. My goodness.
Fun fact for what you can do though is because the way that it works. I'll just talk about the psychic powers because we didn't talk about it with Ultramarines, and it's a similar principle. Librarian models in an X detachment can know all of their psychic powers from the Storm Speaking discipline instead of the Librarians or the Obscuration discipline. So that's one on the Phobos Librarian. Now the Phobos Librarian can set up 9 inches away from an enemy unit and move. There is a power in here called Eye of the Storm. It's Warp Charge 6. If manifested, roll a d6 for every enemy unit within 12 of this cycle, adding 1 to the result if the unit can fly. On a 4+, that unit takes a mortal wound. I'm doing that turn 1 with that Phobos Librarian.
Is a bit much, maybe.
And then he's going to be charging in with his Invicta war suits, which we'll get on to later.
Yes, we will.
Look, the Storm Speaking discipline is really strong.
Cool.
I
Screening is back. Scouts.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's all that sort of stuff.
These things.
Rippers. You got. They're now. They just have to be.
They have to be. Their Warlord traits are quite sort of condensed to the character themselves. There's one in here which is blatantly going to be FAQ day 1.
What's that?
Master of Snares. When an enemy unit within 1 inch of the Warlord is chosen to fall back, you roll 1d6 on a 4+. That unit cannot fall back this turn. Hello, I'm going to charge your Hemlock. On a 4+, it dies.
But he could only charge if he's got like a jump pack or something, though, right?
Which you would.
Yeah,
I'm going to charge that Hemlock.
No.
Yep.
No.
Yep. So the war. If
mind you, if he's charging a Hemlock though, that he's going to take a lot of Overwatch.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But it's still.
But I get your point. You could charge a flyer.
You can charge a flyer with a jump pack.
Cinematically, that doesn't seem to really work.
Well, I mean, unless he just grabs it.
You are stopping.
No. So there's some silly things that you can do. But most of them are they're individual. There's no real buffing ones for them, which kind of. Again, makes sense for White Scars. Their relics are pretty decent. Their special issue war gear is pretty decent. So the special issue war gear, things like Digital Weapons Master Crate. If you're an old school player, you'll recognise those names.
All hailing back from 2nd edition and up, basically.
Their stratagems are crazy good.
Yeah.
And if you combo them with the normal stratagems, I'll say this now: if you're running anything less than a dual battalion, which makes me sick, quite frankly, a dual battalion of Space Marines, you're going to be sort of handicapping yourself because their stratagems are super solid now.
And I said that with the main book as well. Whereas for the previous book, you had, really 3 stratagems that you would sort of look to use. Until Vigilance came out, and then you pretty much use the same one again and again.
Yeah.
Now you've got a really wide range, and they're all high quality, which is why I said I think that the books for me are really exciting because there's a lot of good, fun, and strong combinations that you can do.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of the overview, really, of the basic special rules.
There is one thing that I do want to point out actually, and this applies for Ultramarines as well, and I do think it's another thing that needs like a day 1 FAQ. It's probably just something that got missed in the in the final editing. So can you just read out the combat doctrine bit?
Sure. Combat doctrine specifically. Where are you going with this?
You'll see,
Chef.
You'll see. Because
rabbit hole.
They made a big song and dance of this on the community page, and it doesn't actually work.
Combat doctrines.
So if we could just read this bit here. So models in the unit gain a bonus depending on yada 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 yada. Unless specified otherwise, this bonus is not cumulative with any other rules that improve the armor penetration characteristic of a weapon.
For example, the Storm of Fire Warlord trait, literally word for word.
So here is a 2 command point stratagem in the White Scars, and I believe there's a 2 command point stratagem for the Ultramarines, which works in the tactical doctrine stage. I'm just going to read it out word for word. Use this stratagem at the start of your movement phase if the assault doctrine is active, until the start of the next battle round when resolving an attack made with a pistol or melee weapon by a White Scars model from your army. On an unmodified roll of a 6, the armor penetration characteristic of that attack is improved by an additional 1 for that attack. You can use this stratagem once per battle. So far, so good. Where does it say that stacks with combat doctrines? It doesn't. That's a waste of 2 command points.
It doesn't, but what it does say is when the assault doctrine is active.
No, but this specifically says unless specified otherwise. This does not specify that this stacks with the assault doctrine.
Look, it's a problem. Rules,
so that
rules is written, it doesn't actually work.
I think the rules is intended, yes.
Yes, it does. Because it says when the assault doctrine's active, so...
As written?
But it does
you'd never use that. And it's the same, there's a tactical doctrine one for Ultramarines. Same principle in the tactical phase when shooting with a rapid fire on assault.
If you used it against me, I would let you do it.
And I would let anyone use it against me, but you know that... Yeah, I know you would. But that's because you're a power gamer.
I would be no. Rules is written.
But you see what I mean?
Over here.
There's going to be some...
there are always going to be little
things.
I mean, the good thing is that they do tend to get the FAQ out 2 weeks after a book's published.
Sure.
So the initial one, right?
So there'll be people at a tournament trying to use that and being told no for 2 weeks and then be vindicated 2 weeks later because people don't know what fun is sometimes.
Sometimes. So, okay, right. Look, that's all of the overview of special rules.
Yeah.
What we should do next, I think, is talk about the new units specifically, because obviously a lot of the old units have stayed the same. We've already mentioned Space Marines have dropped a point.
Yeah.
So let's get into those new units. That's coming up next. Yep, that's right. We're back with refreshments and we are ready to talk about some of the new units and a couple of the little changes which I suppose have quite a big effect.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first one is very blatantly in front of us.
You can't charge us.
Pods. You can't charge us, yeah.
Basically.
That's right.
How do you feel about these, Bo?
I don't...
It's a bit controversial for you, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that with...
I'm not ranting.
Not for you for a change.
They've been trying the entire edition to get to stop turn 1 alpha strikes by stopping people deep striking turn 1. They've come up with all these rules. Some of them work, some of them didn't. All this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then they finally seemed to get to a reasonable point with it, in my opinion, with the latest ones that you could still fly over units in the charge phase and that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I was like, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
But then we get to this, and it's not even so much the charging, but the alpha strike potential that this brings, if you use it correctly, is insane. And we're now getting back to a point where you will be able to not only potentially cripple your opponent turn 1, but also do that in a number of ways. You can completely zone out an army, especially if you're playing something like Tyranids or something like that.
Yeah, without fly.
Yeah, with
using that as an example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A drop.
You cannot move that
unit.
The door counts.
Cannot move over there because these are part of the models, so they would have to go all.
So
the way
you can
around.
use it to block off things like objectives.
Yeah.
Which if you're a tournament, you're a competitive
It's
player.
what you're doing
like
anyway.
ITC, where you need to kill more and hold more. A Space Marine player can actually create relatively cheap defensive perimeters which stop the opponent from getting those objectives
until they're destroyed.
And this is still a vehicle. They're annoying to get rid of. I mean, even the humble rhino, you can decimate rhinos, of course, but when you've got multiple of them, they actually start to become a bit of a problem.
You still have to devote
to deal
some
with.
firepower to
You
them.
do, yeah. And if you're firing at epoxy drop pods, you're not firing at maybe their Imperial Knight contingent that they've got with them. It's a bit of a problem.
And that's where I find it a problem, because it breaks the game mechanic which it feels like they've been working against for so long.
Yeah.
And it gives it to one specific faction. And that's where I have a slight problem.
You think it could be a problem?
Yeah.
You don't want to alarm anybody.
I have many counter arguments to this, of course.
Yeah.
I
personally don't mind it.
I agree that the doors should be ignored.
Yeah, I do think the doors should be ignored.
I think the charging aspect of the drop pod isn't so much of a big deal.
Sure, and
it is the shooting. I agree with you. However, 72-inch range Valiants, 40-inch move Fusion Blaster Tau Commanders, Ravagers, like Hemlocks that are moving, or Crimson Hunter. The Alpha Strike is happening regardless of whether you're deep striking or not.
Yeah, and that's where I agree with you 100%.
The issue is the fact that if you don't have the first turn, you can't neuter their Alpha Strike.
Yeah, and now we've got no penalty for them being in reserve, because what they did is like with the triple Ravager, and this is where I understand what you're saying. Triple Ravager that used to go into Webway Strike and go bam, 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 turn
they
one.
Were safe turn
you couldn't destroy them, but they could come down and absolutely nuke you. And now at least they have to wait until turn 2.
Yeah. After they've able to do their Alpha Strike.
Sure. Yeah.
Unless they whiff, it is a game of dice, that can happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, as we've just discussed with all of the sorts of stratagems and things that you can put into play, it makes it very difficult.
It does. But I mean, you're going to hate this, and you're not going to go on a rant about it, because this is a Space Marine Codex review. But I've said it before, and perhaps we'll do a Voxcast on this. In fact, why don't we do a Voxcast on this soon, where we talk about what I would like to see change with, say, a potential 9th edition.
Sure.
I don't believe... I believe inherently a turn-based game where I go with everything, calm down,
I'm getting ready to leave.
You go with everything, is never going to be as smooth as it should be. I believe that there should be an element of I go, you go, which is basically what they do actually in Sigmar. It's basically what they do.
Sigmar's nothing like
for the combat sequence.
No. But you're also missing out the one of the key things of Sigmar, which is the double turn.
Yeah, but I mean that's a whole different thing. Obviously, I've played Sigmar Limited. Yeah. I personally don't like the double turn.
I don't like the double turn as someone who
plays I don't. I think that's exactly the sort of problem that we're getting. If you're allowing an entire army to do something to you, it's going to be a problem, unless you've got amazing terrain. But things like this, line of sight blocking, which a good board should have.
Own terrain.
But this is, it's bring your own terrain, and this circumnavigates people hiding anyway. I can go wherever I want.
I mean, it's still 9 inches away.
It's not a problem.
Yeah,
it's still 9 inches away, and the units inside still have to be 9 inches away.
Yeah.
So
but Grav Cannon don't care about that, does it?
You still need line of sight, so you can screen out. And this is a thing. Screen. And how long were you saying that everyone should be running screens? Like how?
No, but the thing is, right now, I'm on board. I'm on board with this. I like it. Like I think it's cool.
I think it's fluffy and it's powerful.
I know. I look.
Would you be okay if Chaos Marines got it?
Yeah.
Well, I think
now it's 2 factions, and now it's okay.
But I think there needs to be an equivalent of something of everything, because what this does is, like I said...
Can I have my 44-inch moving Gene Stealer equivalent? No, I can't, because that's unique to that faction.
No, but this
every army has to have something.
Chef.
Yeah, but we're not talking...
Coming down turn 1
the game is not
a new precedent, isn't it?
It completely breaks a game mechanic, which they stopped almost 2 years ago from happening, and they've brought it back for one faction, and that's where I go...
It's one faction that is a glass hammer. This is the thing. We didn't touch on this. The Marines hit like an absolute truck. They will die just as easily. They are still...
If you've got anything left after
which you
one.
will.
Do you know what?
If you're playing,
I know what you're saying there.
Well, you're going to have stuff
I know
left.
what you're saying there, but I don't know. I think Primaris... I know that
Primaris
there's a lot of
can't
damage
go in a drop pod, so the argument's
No, they
moot.
can't. But the thing is, the drop pod is, like I said, like if you're playing it like competitively, you're just using the drop pod surgically with, some really high rate of fire units.
You could just have the drop pods empty for each intercessor squad and just have them go,
you're
never
going to
charge
them
me.
as blockers,
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying.
These are my mobile objective takers. They're anywhere I need to go on the board whilst the rest of my army sits in a castle. There are things that you can do. I think... I'm split between the two of you. Myself.
I think it's very fluffy. I like it, and
the drop pods needed something because they were ludicrous before. Let's face it, they weren't being used at all.
They either needed to be like free, or virtually so cheap to the point of free.
Yeah.
Or now I agree. And now at the moment they're 65 points. I think they should go up in points.
Do you think so?
For the turn 1 deep strike, I think you should pay a premium for that.
Yeah.
Back when like Ravagers could do it, 1 command point was not a premium.
No.
I think 95 to 100 points is a premium to do that.
But some people would argue that some people get to deep strike for free inherently.
But that's included in their points cost, and they're not doing that until turn 2 now.
Yeah.
Hence why. So like crisis suits were really expensive. They got a massive points drop, but that's because you couldn't bring them down turn 1 anymore.
Yeah.
Back when they could come down turn 1, crisis suits were relatively scary.
Yeah, could be.
Now they can't do that turn 1.
No.
These can do it turn 1, so they should pay a premium for that, because it's not just that that's coming down turn 1, it's their cargo. So unless you increase the points of every single Marine unit to account for if they were in a drop pod, which is awful games design.
Do not do that.
Don't do
that.
Do not do that.
Increase the points of the drop pod, because this is an easy way to do that, because it would be like turning around and saying, well, a Ravager's 135 points or whatever it is, ludicrously cheap. But if you give it Screaming Jets back when you could do it turn 1, you know what, because you could do that, let's make it 200 points instead. Well, that wouldn't be fair on the people that are doing it, that aren't doing it.
100%.
So don't increase the points of Marines for the fact that they might take a drop pod. Just increase the points of the drop pod. You've got the ability to do that.
Yeah.
Remove the doors, and you know what? Now all of a sudden, if they're 100 points a model to deep strike some units, are you really going to be running 6 of them? Probably not. You still might run 2 or 3.
It depends on the army. And now you did touch on one thing. I don't want to talk about this. This can't be Codex drop pod review, but
it's
an
important
mechanic change.
Yeah,
it will have an effect on the meta.
Yeah, it will.
I think if it didn't, I'd be really, really surprised.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm an expert on the meta, but
I am.
I think that certainly from a tournament point of view, I'm a bit rusty actually this year, but because we've been really busy. But I'll start hitting it again really hard next year or towards the end of this year, kicking off with Heat 4, Games Workshop GT. But here's the thing: I don't see how this doesn't have an effect in a Space Marine players' army list design. I think it's such a powerful tool to have.
I think you need to account for the fact that every Marine list will at least have.
Yeah, and if I was writing a list against Marines, I would have consideration for this.
You almost have to consider it. The other fun fact about it is because obviously there's a big song and dance made over the fact that they ignore the tactical reserves rule, which means they're allowed to come in turn 1. That also allows you to null deploy.
Yeah, so that's the final thing I want to touch on.
If your entire army is in drop pods, and bear in mind, your entire army will have to be in drop pods.
Doesn't half your army, but 50% of your army needs to be deployed?
No, because that's part of the tactical reserves rule, and this states it ignores the tactical reserves rule in match play. And the tactical reserves rule specifically states in match play,
I love the drop pod armies, but
bear in mind
that
would be your entire army, because as soon as you have one unit that's not in a drop pod, then the tactical reserves rule would come into effect for that unit, and you'd be like, well, you've got more than half of it in reserve.
Yeah, and also you would have to do a pure old school Marine army to run that style.
And you know what? That would look really cool.
No, but it would. I mean, I personally that for me is the
that's
Space
Marines. They
Marines.
drop on in there and alpha strike. They're surgical striking, and then they go, we can't deal with long attrition wars.
No,
that's why they die after.
That's where the Astra Militarum come in.
Exactly.
Space Marines have come and done their business. Now the Astra Militarum can come and hold the ground.
I agree. I think it will definitely cause some shake-ups in the meta.
It's ruffled my feathers.
Yeah.
Look. The thing is, I completely understand where both of you are coming from. As I say, I am split down the middle.
But that's because
I do really like it. But I want to see some. Basically, I want a 9th edition. Is what it comes down to. I would like to see some core changes. I do. Yeah, I do. I really do. I really, really do. I think that the game is getting more intelligent now. And I
do you have 7 hours for a game? Because that's how long it will take.
That's what you think. I don't think that would be the case. I think there's ways to make it work.
Well, we'll discuss that.
But we'll discuss that in a different segment. But here's the thing: I wouldn't have I move, you move. I'd have one person moves, and then I would do the shooting alternating.
Would you do it like Apocalypse with a damage phase, so you don't remove models until the end of the turn?
Oh, I haven't played Apocalypse yet, so I don't want to say.
We'll discuss that. We'll discuss it in depth in a Boxcast. Yeah. This is Marines now.
Exactly. But look, let's talk about some of the other new units now. Let's move right onto the Invicta Tactical War Suits.
God, it's so cool.
It's really, really, really good. I think it's really reasonably pointed. In fact, I think it's
it's underpointed.
Yeah.
I think it's underpointed.
Well, I think the thing is, I don't want to call it underpointed because it's underpointed in comparison, perhaps, with all of the existing books. But as I think we all agree on this, I think this is the first in a wave of new books.
Sure.
For me, this is like a reset.
Yeah.
Do you know? Does that make sense, guys?
This is the beginnings of 8.1.
Yeah, exactly. This is a reset. The books are different.
Chaos Marines was the end of 8.
Yes.
This is 8.1.
Yes.
For sure.
I think that is a fair statement at this point. So the Invicta Tactical War Suits, Strength 7, Toughness 6, 13 wounds, 4 attacks. The key thing for me, highlights are, it can start 9 inches away.
Yeah.
Right next to those drop pods.
Yeah. It's got the Incendium cannon is not 8-inch range, it's 12-inch range, so it can fire turn 1.
And it's heavy, so it's AP2.
Yeah, exactly. It hits automatically, which is absolutely brilliant. Strength 5, -1, 2d6 automatic hits. I love that the heavy bolter can also then be used as a pistol in combat.
That is my favourite part of it.
This is like Robocop, basically.
Yeah.
That is my favourite part of it.
What it is.
It's like Ed 209 and Robocop in one.
I do not care what anyone says. That model has come from some dark corner of someone's 1980s sci-fi movie obsessed brain, and it is glorious for it. All it needs now is I'm going to model one, because I will be getting some. I'm going to model one with, he's got the pistol on the one side, and on the other side, he's got a jumbo combat knife, like those mech suits from Avatar.
Yeah, well, that's what it is.
Because that's what it is!
It's a homage
awesome.
to Ripley's...
yeah, you know people are going to do it as power loaders.
Yeah,
put your female space marines in there, guys.
I personally really like it. I think from a design point of view, you probably have the hull enclosed. You probably wouldn't have this frame. But then, having said that, it could be a situation where, and because they're very similar to the suits that they had in the Matrix as well.
Yep.
But I suppose there is also the other side that maybe it's supposed to be easy access, get in, get out. Yeah. It's basically an exo armor.
Yeah, it's an exosuit. It's basically I believe I have not read through it concisely yet, but I believe the fluff of it is that Cole looked at the Redemptor and just went, "Wait, why are we using dead guys?"
Yeah.
Rip off the front, strip it down,
Yeah.
because that's what it is. It's stat wise, it's identical to a Redemptor apart from its toughness, and its fist is flat free rather than D6.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's designed to provide sort of heavy support to the rest of the sort of infiltrating special forces guys.
Yeah.
It's meant to be, and I can imagine, like there's an objective, a Battle Brothers carrying like the case and he falls down and the guy like, jumps down like, runs off, like.
Yeah,
But this, people are saying like this is not like 40k. I'm sorry. The 80s 40k was the most ridiculous thing ever. You're not telling me that a giant invisible robot with a heavy bolter for a pistol is not ridiculous. If this is an old school 40k at its finest, just because it doesn't have like wacky colours and like stumpy arms, doesn't mean that it's not 40k.
Yeah, no, I
love it.
I
think
it.
it's great.
Yeah, myself, I love it.
And the fact that rules-wise it's really good is
it's
just a
also
cherry
just
on top.
It's a cherry on top. So look, that's the Invicta Warsuit. There's really not really much else to say about that. It's going to be great for ball control. It's great for turn 1.
You'll see 3 of them a lot.
Yeah, and as you say, you can synergize that with a Phobos Librarian. Great little unit. Little unit. And they're really tasty in combat as well. Yeah. That's the thing.
5 attacks on the charge because of
shock assault.
So
they've got
Angel of Death works on everything. This means everything gets +1 in the first turn.
Yeah.
Drop pods have an attack.
Yeah.
They have dash attacks, but they get +1 if they're charged.
Because its base strength is 7, it's actually strength 14 -3 damage, 3 in combat.
It's going to kill most tanks in combat. Two of them will probably kill an eye.
Yeah. I look again, screening, right?
Yep.
So, look, little highlight on the aggressor squads. I thought the aggressors were actually pretty good before. Now they're seriously good.
Oh, yeah.
They're seriously good. Toughness 5, 3 wounds apiece. What's up?
Same points.
Same points, still firing twice if you remain static.
Or if you're Ultramarines turn 2.
Now, Ruben, who's got basically an Ultramarine aggressor army.
Yeah.
He's going to be loving life right now. So, I mean...
His army just became serious.
So 6 of them...
Real serious.
So just... off the cuff number crunching here. A unit of 6 aggressors, same points as they currently are. They've got... That's an extra 6 wounds in there. An extra potentially 12 attacks because of shock assault.
Yeah.
And they're still powerful in combat, guys. Yeah. And that is... If they're Ultramarines, so everything's now -1 because it's all assault weapons. So that is something in the region of, that's 36, 72, plus another on average, so 46 is 14, divided by 2 times that, no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. 2d6, 7 times that by 6, another 42. You're looking at around about 118 strength 4 -1 shots from turn 2 onwards.
Oh, that's not many.
Per turn, per unit.
Not many, is it?
No.
Yeah, no, they're really good. They're really good. Right, Eliminator squads. Just wanted to have a little highlight on here. We do have a new weapon option, the Las Fusel. It is strength 8 minus 3 damage 3. It is just a one shot. Interesting one with this, the unit still is capped at 3 models.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
because
you
of
could,
the lieutenant.
That's right, yeah.
I was number crunching the like if they said, oh yeah, you can take 6 of them in a squad. Your lieutenant's never firing, but now your sniper rifles are doing +1 to hit, +1 to wound. So now it's kind of like a wash. I'm not a fan of the las fusel, I must admit.
Yeah, I understand that. I think I probably would go the bolt sniper rifle because it's quite flexible anyway with the 3 shots that you have. But I mean, the fact that las fusel is damage 3 though, it's like not damage. It's damage 3. Like, oh.
Yeah, flat 3.
But I suppose if I was looking for my
snipe.
heavy, it can't. If I was looking for my heavy support, I probably still would look elsewhere.
Yeah.
But just an interesting point. I also think the models are absolutely
I think they're
amazing.
Awesome.
So there we go. Well done, Games Workshop. So look, right, let's go to the Repulsor Execution. I'm not really going to go over because actually, it's the rules were shown before the book came out. I do think the fact that it can fire twice if it moved less than half is really, really good.
Yeah.
We do have 3 for the dragons now, the Obsidian Dragons, so I'll start playtesting them in some battle reports very soon.
Of course.
And we've got 3 Invicta Warsuits on the way for dragons as well.
Could you just read the rule for the Aquilon Optic?
Sure. So if in your movement phase this model does not move or moves a distance less than half its move characteristic, it can shoot with its heavy laser destroyer or macroplasma incinerator twice in the following shooting phase. However, the weapon must target the same unit both times.
Oh, cool. As far as I can tell, that stacks with Science of Guilliman. Whilst the tactical doctrine is active, models with this ability that moved in your movement phase but did not advance or fall back can make shooting attacks with ranged weapons in the following shooting phase as if their unit had remained stationary this turn.
So he can just move forward.
He can move. So from turn 2 onwards, he sacrifices an AP for full movement from turn 2 Ultramarines. So again, that ability is so powerful.
Well, I personally think Ultramarines, because of course you still have access to the Primarch. We haven't really spoken about him because to be honest, we've already reviewed that in the Ultramarine game. If you want to talk about that. Guilliman, all right, he's lost flat reroll wounds.
Good.
But he's gone down 50 points, guys.
Yeah.
I
don't think was necessary.
He's hugely competitive still, in my opinion, because he's so cheap for what he does. In my opinion, he's an absolute monster.
Yeah.
I think ultimate combat deterrent as well. If you are playing a moving Ultramarine castle, people want to come near you. Guilliman steps out. They're like, "Oh, hello."
And that's the thing now, Ultramarine, because that was traditional sort of Ultramarine.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The traditional Ultramarines was just castling. Now, from turn 2, you can go, you know what? Now you can start going out. Yeah. So you've got a lot more flexibility. Yeah. The one thing I will say with Guilliman, and this applies across the board to all of like the sort of the re-rolly type stuff that's in these books, and the White Scars and the Ultramarines, and I presume moving forward, is that they've reworded things like it's no longer reroll failed hit rolls, it's reroll hit rolls.
Yeah.
Which allows you to go, you know what? I know that would miss after the modifiers. I'm just going to reroll it.
Yeah.
Rather than going.
Well, to be honest, that was always a bit of a. I got it. It was always a bit of an annoying mechanic,
but it was
you're always constantly going. Oh right, but remove this.
Me and Bone touched upon this with the one of the latest games that we did, where it actually was more beneficial to have a worse ballistic skill shooting at someone with modifiers because you got more rerolls.
Yeah.
Which never made any sense to me. So now it's like, you know what? If you're shooting at something that's -2, you know a 3 is going to miss. You can re-roll that now, and I'm hoping, and it looks like that's going to happen across the board because the Chapter Master stratagem is worded exactly the same.
Yeah, it's a welcome change.
So good, and that sort of tightening of the rules there.
This is why I'm very excited about it.
Plasma is still not unmodified ones, though, as far as I can tell.
Oh, really?
As far as I can tell. Because that's another silly one, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, because that sucks a bit.
If any hit rolls of 1...
are made for this,
not unmodified rolls. So yes, you're still going to die if you shoot a plane whilst overcharging. Which
shame that.
I still kind of get because, you can...
My Scions don't like that.
No.
Andonian Genome do not like that at all.
They hate it.
Right, Impulsor. Okay, so new, basically, Primaris Razorback. Look, I do like it. I just want to have a little check of the points here, though, Chef.
It's about 95-ish.
95, you say?
Yeah. So it comes with 2 Stormbolters, and you can have it like that. I don't think it. So
it's got the repulsor field, but the assault vehicle rule's very interesting.
Yeah. You know what's really funny is that the assault vehicle was always a rule for Land Raiders, which don't have this rule.
No.
They should have this rule.
Yeah, they should.
Because it's not even that. It's good, but it's not even like oh my god, like that's sort of like brokenly good. So it allows you to disembark after the model's moved, so long as it didn't advance. You just can't charge. Cool.
Yeah, but I can put. It's got a transport capacity of 6.
6. You can't put aggressors in there. You can put Primaris infantry only. There's no Gravis.
You cannot, or Mark 10 Gravis models. Yeah.
Which is your captain in Gravis or your aggressors.
It's an interesting one. I mean, personally, for me, like, this could. I mean, sorry to harp on about Blood Angels, but it's same for Space Wolves. Any of those sort of assault-oriented armies or armies that want to close the gap quite quickly, this could be quite effective for. I don't know if I would take them yet over something like the Repulsors.
Okay, so this is the thing that I think with them.
Yeah.
So they come into 2 Stormbolters, sure. You can give it an Iron Hail Heavy Star. I think it's 75 points base. So we're looking at about 79 so far.
Yeah.
I would probably not bother with the 4-up Invo. I quite like the idea of a 4-up Invo, but it's still toughness 7 with 11 wings and a 3-up save.
Well, I quite like the missile array.
I really like the orbital comms array.
Okay, in your shooting phase, one model from your army with an orbital comms array that has not been used in a battle can use it to call in an orbital barrage. If it does, select 1 point on the battlefield, roll a d6 to each unit within d6 inches, subtracting 1, of course, if they're a character. It's pretty traditional at the moment in 8th. On a 4+, the unit being rolled 4 suffers d3 mortal wounds.
That's 18 points. It's once per game, but that's 18 points.
So is that bringing you to around 110 points for this?
That would be.
I
think that comes to less than 100 points. Now, then.
Okay, that's quite tasty.
And then the thing is, you consider the size of the model, the fact that it's got the gravatic backwash. Is it repulsor field? No,
Repulsor
that's
field.
a heresy thing. Gravatic backwash. The repulsor field is -2 to charge. It's a chunky model that can fly. That's a great little screen.
Yeah.
2 or 3 of them side on.
It's an interesting one.
And then I think the transport capacity of 6 is meh. There's nothing really that you want to put in there.
I don't know if I'd be taking a 6 impulsor.
You would never take a 6 impulsor list, but you might take 1 or 2. I would certainly consider taking 1 or 2. The problem that I have with it is the transport capacity of 6 is the same issue as a Razorback. It's like...
I know what you mean about the orbital comms array. I don't know about it.
I might just take 1 and have it as a bombardment once per game and then just send it off, to do stuff.
I've got to roll
a 14
4+. I'll often then have to use a command point to re-roll that because you've paid the 18 points for it.
Sure, but there's also a stratagem that does the same thing for free command points. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's a free, it's basically 3 command points worth of shooting.
See, I think the missiles they have. I'd be curious how many points they are, but I think over the course of a game, they've got more sustained fire. I think you're going to get better value out of that. Yeah. That's just my initial instinct, guys. I could be wrong, of course. Maybe some hardcore tournament player will do a 10 impulsor list and. Roll 4+ on everything.
Well,
actually, to be honest,
remember this is
exactly.
Remember this is once per turn. 1 model from your army with an orbital comms array that has not been used this battle.
I thought it was once per battle.
Yeah, no, it's once per battle, once per turn per model type thing. So you can't just go. There's 7 of them and take 73.
Do you know? I'm not actually a massive fan of it, Chef.
That's what I mean. One of them with
honestly.
that as part of a screen.
Yeah. I think I prefer the missile array. I could be wrong, but for me, because it's got that flexibility, guys. And I like, if you're talking about competitive play, you want units which are going to either fill a very specific role and then you have some redundancy there, or units which can fill multiple roles and then you've got redundancy across them.
Yeah.
So you've got crack missiles here, strength 8, -2 damage d6. I know it's just a single crack missile.
But it's a frag missile.
Yeah, and then you've got Icarus missiles, which can go, against flyers, ignoring that -1, which is really, really nice.
Depends how many points it is as well.
Yeah, it does.
Have a quick look.
How many points is the missile array?
Let's have a little gander, shall we?
So the impulsor itself.
Well, let's find the missile array first.
Bellicosi, 17.
17. So it's a point cheaper than
the orbital comms is 18, and the shield dome is 18. So it's all around about the same points.
Yeah. And the impulsor is 75. Yeah.
So if you took it without any of the Iron Hail stuff, so it can come... No, that's a Storm Raven.
Oh, yeah, that's a Storm Raven. That's a Storm Raven.
You can't take those as dedicated transports.
There we go.
So it can come with an Iron Hail Heavy Stubber extra. It can come with 2 Frag Storm launchers instead of Storm Bolters. I'd probably go with the Storm Bolters for the consistency.
Yeah. I agree with that.
So it's basically, do you want the mortal wound once per game? Do you want the 4-up? Do you want a once per game mortal wound? Do you want defensive, or do you want consistent output?
Yeah.
Which I really like the fact that there's variety for that.
No, so do I. I really like it too. I mean, again, I'm not sure I'm taking it over a Repulsor, honestly, as if I was going full Primaris, but I don't know yet. The jury's out.
The thing is, you're looking at something that is less than 100 points that can carry half the amount.
Yeah.
But if you were to take 2 of them, you're now carrying the same amount of models for less points, split between 2 units. Yeah. Sure, it's only toughness 7, toughness 8, but you could potentially, you've got and obviously less
firepower is insane.
And obviously less firepower, but it's also not one target.
No, it's not. Yeah, absolutely.
Which has its own inherent advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? So we've got some choices. So right, the only other thing I want to talk about and sort of wrap up on now is the Phobos infiltrators.
There's a bunch of changes to the Phobos units.
Yeah, because now that they've obviously got these kits coming, we've spoken about the lattice fusils and stuff, but we've got some variety in weapon options, and specifically we have the Haywire Mine.
Oh, I'm a big fan of these guys.
Yeah, I'm going to try and find it here somewhere.
Now, this is the one I haven't looked at, so please, I want to be enlightened.
Would you like to be enlightened?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm very excited about these guys. So from my perspective, this unit here, they're super scouts. Yeah. So for me, when I'm going to be upgrading my Ashen Huntsman over time, like start Primarisifying them, because
the Incursor squad, that's what we're talking about here.
Right. Primaris is the stronger, but these will be my scout squads. They've finally graduated, they've been elevated to Marines, they've passed the Rubicon, and these are going to be Incursor squads.
And the fact that they're troops is just absolutely awesome.
They're strong.
They are strong, yeah. So they've got the smoke grenades, they've got combat squad rules, Angels of Death, of course, concealed position, so set up 9 inches away, multi-spectrum array. When resolving an attack with a ranged weapon by a model in this unit, ignore hit roll modifiers and ballistic skill modifiers.
I like that it also specifies and ballistic skill modifiers. So that means these guys can shoot at Coluxus and go, we don't care.
Yeah. Oculus bolt carbines, ignore cover. Yeah. Yeah.
I've wanted something to kill those Coluxus for so long.
Yeah, they're really irritating, aren't
they? Oh, man. Don't get me started.
Also, the fact that they can have paired combat blades looks absolutely badass.
Yeah, they come with paired combat blades. So
Oculus bolt carbine, ignoring cover.
Now, interestingly, the paired combat blades, unlike a normal sort of like combat knife, which gives you an extra attack, this is just an unmodified hit roll of a 6 scores 1 additional hit. There's no extra attacks inherent to this.
No.
But it does mean a unit of a 5-man unit of Incursors on the charge has because they are Primaris, so they've got 2 attacks base. That's 3 attacks each plus another one for the sergeant.
Yep. So
you're looking at 16 attacks there.
Yeah.
You can be doing upwards of 20 hits with these guys. Yep. Sure, their strength for the AP 0.
Yeah.
But
there are also stratagems as well, specifically where you roll 6s to hit, you get an additional hit.
Yeah, there's a primary specific one. But they're doing it turn 1 because it's concealed position. They're 9 inches away. Their bolt gun, it's a normal bolt gun, but it ignores cover.
Yeah.
But more importantly, for 10 points, you can buy them mines, which is awesome.
But it is 1 per 5, I believe.
No, it's 1 per unit.
1 per unit.
So you run these in 5-man squads.
Yeah, so you're just
take mines.
Yeah, exactly. So in your movement phase, 1 model from your army with a Haywire Mine that has not been primed can prime it. At any point during the model's move, place 1 primed Haywire Mine within 1 inch of it, more than 3 inches away from any enemy models, and more than 6 inches away from any other primed Haywire Mines. If an enemy unit moves within 3 inches of that primed Haywire Mine, roll a d6. On a 2+, the enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. If it's a vehicle, it's d3 plus 1 mortal wounds.
That's really fun.
It is. Now, but again, you want to talk about subtle board control. You've got 3 of these units. You're going to place a Haywire Mine here, place a Haywire Mine here, place a Haywire Mine.
Place it around objectives.
Yeah, I mean,
how badly do you want that objective?
It's like it's very, very, very cool.
Yeah.
That
obviously the mine
is an Incursor.
Is there any way to can you shoot at them or anything?
Nope,
like that?
you cannot shoot the mine. The mine only goes off once. It does specify you remove the prime model. A unit of 5 of them with a mine is 105 points.
It's getting a bit much
now. They're 19 points a model and 10 points for the mine.
Look, if you're a Space Marines
player... I'm taking
player,
3 of them.
Do
you understand?
If you're a Space Marines player right now, especially an Ultramarines player, you should be so excited.
I said this in the
Yes.
Ashen Huntsman game that we played, my first game here this year. I'm actually excited to play Marines again.
Yeah. No,
I've not used my Ashen Huntsman for many, many months. Yeah. And I'm not just talking on here, I'm talking at my sort of, my local store, my ex-local store. I think I used them once in the last year, and that was literally a friendly game. And in that friendly game, I took 4 assassins to give them some punch. Now I don't feel like I need to.
Yeah.
I feel like they can actually sort of pull the weight themselves. And that's just the basic Marines. Now I'm going to start throwing in some Primarch. I mean, I've got some pretty cool ideas because, so like the Huntsmen were always kind of like they were meant to be like a flexible sort of insertion force. Not necessarily like all bikes, but it was meant to be like rapid insertion, like in-out surgical strikes. So kind of White Scars, kind of Raven Guardy. Yeah. So I'm going to be running loads of Incursors, maybe some Infiltrators, a couple units in drop pods, loads of Intercessors. Like there's going to be so much firepower in the army. It's going to be great fun.
Yeah, I think it'll be really fun to play.
It will be. It will be.
And play against, actually.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Marines have a huge amount of board control.
Yeah.
They pump out so much more damage now. They are. I still think they are, ironically, a glass cannon army.
Do you really?
I still think that given the, I'm talking from like a competitive meta sense and all that sort of stuff. 2 wounds, toughness 4, free up save is really nice, but it doesn't go very far. It does not go very far. You still got Ravagers everywhere. You still got Gatling cannons everywhere. Dual Chaos Knight Gatling cannons are going to be a thing if they're not already a thing. Yeah. You'll go. There's all kinds of stuff.
Heavy burst cannons.
Heavy burst cannons damage 2. Broadsides are D3. Destroyers are D3. Those 2 wounds aren't going to help you against the Necron strats. Nids, like 60, 40-inch move. Gene Stealers are still going to rip through a unit very easily. There's plenty of, counters, not necessarily hard counters. I think Knights are still a hard counter to Marines, especially Primaris Marines, because if you are running a pure Primaris army, your anti-tank is still very limited. The
execution has gone a ways to fix that.
It has. It went up in points.
And the fact that Knights don't have that 3-up invuln now does actually make a massive difference.
Oh, it does. It does.
But I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
So I think you will, tactical Marines will still have a place.
Yeah.
Whether it's for, just cheap las cannon fodder or drop pod grav cannons, because you are going to see a lot of them. Everyone that sold all their grav cannons and drop pods at the beginning of 8th is ruined that decision. I had a drop pod that I bought at the end of 7th that is still in its shrink wrapper. I'm going to bust that bad boy
out.
Very good.
I was like, I'll just sell it on eBay. I'll get like a 5
and you've got grav cannon devastator unit as well.
Well, I've always used them, but now they're actually. I mean, the one game that I've used them so far, they were MVPs. They were just going delete. Delete. It's great.
Yeah, 16 shots is absolutely awesome.
It's pretty nasty, and with all those rerolls, awesome. There's some really cool stuff you can do with Marines. I think the book as a whole is very good. Yeah. It doesn't quite resolve some of my main issues with Marines, which is their survivability.
Yeah.
But it certainly helps with their offensive output. I think once they can
feel beastly.
Once they can get that survivability down, and even if it is just an extra wound for everyone, and that's all they need to do. All Space Marines have 1 extra wound. Oh, what does that mean for Primaris? They can have an extra wound as well. You know what? And what's that like?
So you would make a Primaris Intercessor 3 wounds?
I would make them 3 wounds, but I'd bump them up their points a little bit. But how badass is that? Like, this knight comes along like smoke and bits of dirt flying everywhere, chunks of ruins, and then just these intercessors just marching out. Then you can imagine the night pilot going,
It is very cool. I don't know if I agree with 3 wounds apart. That's really strong.
It might be too much, but maybe give them. I don't know. That's the thing. You can't just give them a feel no pain because that takes away from Death Guard. It takes away from Iron Hands. There's got to be some way of making them more survivable without just make them cheaper so you have more bodies, because then you have to make everything cheaper.
Well, for me, they do feel. I mean, you talk about them not having sustainability, which I do get. There are, especially Ravagers and Gatling, but those are like the heavy weapons of other races.
And I get that
we should be able to try and take out a Marine.
I get that they're
the
meant
amount of
to
times
be
I see a las cannon hit a Space Marine and roll a 1.
Sure.
On the damage. You
Sure.
know,
And that obviously represents their, human. Yeah. I just think you can do it in one of two ways. In terms of because Games Workshop and the designers, and I've been to the rule seminars, they have always said that the tactical Marine is the baseline stat.
Yeah, they have.
And they base everything off of a tactical Marine.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep.
Don't ask me why, because strength 4, toughness 4, or 3-up save is not the average.
No,
it's not meant to be the average. It's meant to be superhuman, but that's the average that they use. That's the baseline. Yeah. So you've either got to do it in one of two ways. You either have to make anti-infantry firepower, anti-heavy infantry firepower, and anti-tanker monsters. Now, anti-tanker monsters is fairly obvious. That's las cannons, that's things like that. Anti-infantry, again, fairly obvious. It's bolters, that's las guns, that's things like that. Anti-heavy infantry is a weird one because at the moment, that's the best weapon in the game.
Yeah.
It's got the damage to deal with tanks and monsters, it's got the damage to deal with heavy infantry, and it's got the rate of fire to deal with normal infantry.
That's because of the wound system.
And that's because of the current wound system. So what you need to do is you either need to bump up the wounds to make the heavy infantry more survivable, you need to give them some inherent advantage like, ignore the first AP.
Or you just change the wound system.
Or you change the wound system, or you change the rate of fire on stuff. You have high rate of fire for anti-infantry, middling rate of fire for heavy infantry, and low rate of fire, high damage for tanks.
Yeah.
So that means, you know what?
Well, I never liked the swingy nature of something like a las cannon anyway. I think a D6, you've paid this points for this heavy gun. Yeah, you might get a big reward, but so often you get that 1 or 2, and you're like, well, that's not representative of what that weapon should do when it hits something.
Yeah. I like the way that they do it in Apocalypse. I know you haven't played Apocalypse.
No, I'm
going to give a very, very brief rundown of it for people that aren't aware. You can fire any weapon, but it has 2 different stat lines depending on what you fire at, and there's 2 different types of units. There's light and heavy. That's it. There's no in between.
No.
You shoot a las cannon at a heavy unit, and it's 5s. You need to roll a 5 on a. It's a D12 system, so equivalent. Let's call that a 3.
Yep.
If you shoot that at infantry, you need like an 11.
Sure.
Because that's to represent your shot just missing, or you go, well done, you killed one guy.
Yep.
Yeah. Because obviously it's massive, unit based, and that's kind of similar in the fact that this last cannon D6 damage, and damage doesn't overspill.
Yeah.
I know you said you'd like to see damage overspill. I do not, because then everything would be dead turn 2.
I don't want to see damage overspill on everything. I think
on some, you know what I would like to see. You know what I think would be good if things like an Avenger Gatling cannon, half the number of shots.
Yeah.
But have that as a weapon that damage overspills. So that's to represent the raking firepower. So things like Primaris are taking less shots from it, but that's to represent them going like get out of the way, brother, and they take the shots for them. But against a unit of orcs, you know what? You can still kill the same number of orcs. Why should you kill more of that unit that's more expensive because it has more wounds when you can kill the same number of that? To represent it, it just punches through them.
Yeah.
And that's where I'd like to see the damage overspill. A las cannon, people go, a las cannon should punch through stuff. Well, no, because it's laser weaponry. That's absorbed.
Sure.
That's how physics work. I know physics in a sci-fi game doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't really count for what you gave.
But something like a railgun should punch through stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
a railgun. If you fire the high shot,
Yep.
that should be 2d6, and it should be
it should be a straight line.
It should be a straight line, and it does X amount of damage.
Yeah.
So some weapons overspill, and that would be a way of again mitigating that heavy infantry to infantry. That's still things. I'm using the heavy Gatling cannon as a big example. That's because you see it so much.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good barometer.
And same like Disintegrator. Make it 2 shots, but make the damage overspill to just represent it. Go.
Yeah, I mean, look.
So
it's
then
a tough
that gives
one.
the survivability
The
to
simplest
heavy
thing would be to change the wound system.
But then how would you change the wound system? Because those big weapons are still going to be wounding on 3s and 2s.
Yeah.
If that's not helping them, that's actually just helping the vehicles.
But I mean, if you wanted to make a very simple change, but I think we should do a Voxcast on I suppose a wish list on what what
rule mechanics changes to be done. We'll be there for hours.
Yeah,
I'll be there for hours. They'd have walked away. By
we might just set you up in the middle.
Yeah,
and we'll come in and sit in every now and then.
How are you getting on? I'm just getting more and more ragged.
Yeah.
Well, look, let's wrap this up. The Space Marine Codex, I think overall is an absolute winner.
Yeah, it's very good.
If it's the first of a new wave of style, fantastic.
If it's not, why?
If it's not, why?
Because you've nailed it.
Yeah.
The thing is, one thing, and I said this with the Ultramarines, the game that we played as a preview. it just the flavor that is now inherent in this codex, it actually makes Marines really interesting. It just before they felt a bit not
bland
much was going
almost,
on,
yeah.
and it kind of makes sense if you talk about like them using like tactical Marines as a baseline, because that's kind of what the army felt like. It was almost like a baseline. There was a couple of really like, you know, force multipliers like Gilliman and all that sort of stuff, which kind of changed it up a bit. But like Gilliman is just not necessary anymore if you don't want him. Do you know what I mean? Like he's just not. There's so much going on, and I look, despite the drop pod stuff, like I think it's really cool.
But that's one thing out of an entire book.
Despite all that, despite all that, I think it's really cool. I think if you're a Space Marines player right now, this is a good time to be a Space Marines player.
Completely agree. Completely agree. So hopefully much more to come from the new release train that the Games Workshop have been steaming along on with over the past 12 months. And my goodness, it looks like we're going to have a lot more exciting things to come.
We've got 4 more supplements to come. And they've not given a timeline on them, I don't think. But I would be very surprised if you don't see them very soon, because there's actually a few hints in here to some of the stuff that's coming.
Tidbits.
Yeah. So, you know, we'll see.
That's very interesting.
We'll see.
So, folks, hope you enjoyed that. This was an overview of the Space Marine
an extended discussion.
And chaos. Obviously, we didn't really cover the stratagems and tactics and all of the sorts of things.
But you guys can look over them yourselves now at this point.
Exactly.
You know,
and we are going to do a Tactica series reboot soon over on Demand, where we all do the tactical reviews, and we'll actually go on to specific combinations and look at the things individually as how you probably build an army list for those different things.
I presume we're also going to be talking about the other supplements as and when they come out.
Of course. Of course, you have all of that to look forward to.
That'll be a much more smaller.
Yeah, condensed. So, folks, see you very, very soon in another battle report. Until next time, this has been Tabletop Tactics.